Have you ever wondered, is it worth buying organic eggs? Hello, my successful and healthy earthlings. Mihaela Ragush here, naturopath and founder of the Natural Health podcast. In this episode, you will learn all about the marketing jargon used on the eggs so you're able to make the right decision on the right eggs to buy and to consume. Welcome to the Natural Health podcast, where we bring awareness of sustainable health in a business hustle space. Natural Health podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve success and optimal health. And at the end of this episode, I'm also going to give you an opportunity to join a health and success-oriented community by clicking below and joining the newsletter. It's Wednesday, which means it's time for What Would I Do? In today's episode of Natural Health podcast, we discuss this week's question. All questions are kept confidential and I answer them and read them as if it was me. The information provided is not to be taken as advice and solely for information purposes only. I'm not here to cure, treat, or provide medical advice. I'm here to educate and inform you so you're able to take steps towards optimal health. Please discuss any medical issues with your healthcare professional. Let's get into today's question. The question is I eat a dozen eggs a week and I'm really confused about organic eggs. Is it worth it? What a great question. I get this question all the time. So I'm so glad that you asked it. So then I'm able to provide my answer to a bigger audience on a platform. So first, let's look into eggs, right? Look, you may eat eggs, you may not eat eggs due to ethical reasons or anything along those lines. But this individual is asking because they do eat eggs and they want to make the most out of it, right? So essentially, I'm not too sure if what type of eggs you're eating at the moment, if you're buying organic eggs, but I guess your question is that you're a bit confused about the labeling, because when we go to the shop, we see caged eggs, we see non-caged eggs or free range, we see pasteurized, we see organic, we see farm fresh, we see hectare this, hectare that, square hectare, happy chickens, vitamin D, this, that. What does all this mean, and is it worth buying organic eggs? Okay, so let's look into what it means here in Australia for it to be certified organic eggs. All right, organic eggs come from hens that are free to roam in an outdoor area during the day and are housed safely and securely in a shed at night. So the main difference between organic and free-range eggs is that organic eggs are produced without the use of chemicals. Essentially, that's the overview, but I'm going to go more into details, right? Organic eggs are laid by hens that are fed organically grown grain. And you may say, well, grain is not really good for chickens or anything along those lines. I'll go into that. Wait with me, bear with me. So this means that organic egg farmers can only buy grain from a certified organic supplier who grows the grain without herbicides, pesticides, or any synthetic fertilizer. So this farmer that has these organic chickens or that's producing organic chicken eggs, the farmer has to also keep the outdoor range area where the hens wander around free from any chemicals, which is an interesting aspect that I didn't even really click into, right? So when the farmer lets the chickens out, they can roam around. Yes, they can roam around, amazing. But what are they eating, right? The organic ones are eating these. Maybe they'll find some animals, then maybe they'll find some herbs, grass, anything along those lines, but it is free from chemicals. So that means weeds, pests have to be managed in a natural way, such as companion planting, which is such an amazing concept. Absolutely love it. So that means you plant two things next to each other, which helps reduce pests and so forth. Anyway, so rotating grazing and using cultivation techniques that expose pets to predators. So, in addition to that, antibiotics are generally not permitted in organic egg farming. And if they're used in exceptional circumstances, the hens treated with antibiotics must be kept separate from the rest of the chickens. So, in most cases, what actually happens is the chickens are treated with these antibiotics before they even get an infection. It's kind of like a proactive treatment in a way that they see it. So, they get treated with antibiotics before they're even sick, and they're all around it. But in organic, they don't. So, and in addition to that, the routine use of antibiotics is actually banned by organic standards. So this regular preventative use of antibiotics in intensive farming is increasing the risk of antibiotic resistance, which is what's happening at the moment when non-organic farming. So there you have it. So that's amazing. So also outdoor forage also means that organic chickens get to eat a variety of plants, grubs, insects, which adds variety to their diet and also keeps them healthy. So that's kind of like the standard that we need to have here in Australia to be organic. So what you look at is where organic egg farming differs from free range is organic feed is produced without synthetic fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides. They can roam around, chemical free. They stocking rate organic is lower than free, so they have less chickens in a bigger place around. And also vaccines and antibiotics are avoided as much as possible in organic farming. It's not a given. Whereas non-organic, they are fed things such as synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, exposed to toxins. They are not free to roam around well, if they are free to roam around, they may be ingesting chemicals such as herbicides and so forth from the sprayed grass around them. In addition to that, there's a lot of them cramped up, and also antibiotics and vaccines are used on a regular basis. What I want you to know is that chickens are actually omnivores. They eat both plants and meat. So they might find little insects and love them, right? And chickens are not picky eaters. So what you need to understand is if chickens are exposed to anything in front of them, that means that they'll eat them, even if it's bad for them, such as toxic plants, moldy foods, and even foods like styrofoam. They'll actually eat it. So if it's put in front of them, they'll eat it, even if it's toxic to them. So this is where it's so important that it's managed in a good way for them, right? And chickens don't have teeth. I found that absolutely amazing. So they just pick at it. So they eat what they're supposed to be eating is insects, termites, ants, worms, plants, spinach, cabbage, kale, pumpkin, potatoes, berries. So the list goes on and on and on, right? So the questions that I have, I know I blabbed on a lot about it, is where do you currently get your eggs from? Are they currently free range? Are they caged? Are they from a farm? Are they organic? Do you currently have chickens yourself? Do you get eggs from your chickens? What are your current health issues? What medication are you on? Are you exposed to any other toxins that you want to reduce your toxic load? Are you exposed to antibiotics? Do you want to be exposed to antibiotics? And also, questions that you have around the chickens. How do you want your chickens being treated before they lay an egg? And so forth. And what is your toxic load? Just a few questions here. What would I do, right? If I ate eggs, what I would do is I would ensure that the eggs that I eat, I would first figure out how many eggs I'm eating, right? But not even that. Before I even figure out how many eggs I'm eating, if it's one egg, right? I would go to a farm and talk to the chicken farmer and figure out, how do you treat your chickens? What do you feed your chickens? What are they exposed to? Do you follow organic farming? Blah, 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 and the list goes on and on and on. Do you use any herbicides, pesticides, and so forth? Because the issue that I also want to bring up is, yes, you may be eating organic, but organic grain may actually not be the best for the chickens. You want them to have a variety of food. You want them to have some berries, like I said, potatoes, insects, and all of these things, not just grain. Even though it is organic grain, which reduces the toxic load dramatically, you want to have a variety of food. So this is where it's important to talk to the chicken farmer and figure out and ask them, what else do you feed them? What's the diet made out of? And so forth. And visit the chickens, visit the farm, check that out. That's what I would do in a sense. In addition to that, also touch base with the company and ask them what standards they are obeying by. And I would stick to as much as possible, if I was not going to contact the farm and so forth, to organic pasteurized eggs, right? This is absolutely key because I want to reduce my toxic load. I don't want to be exposed to unnecessary antibiotics, unnecessary pesticides, unnecessary herbicides. I don't want to increase my toxic load just because I'm ingesting eggs, okay? This is absolutely key for you to understand. You may be eating as healthy as possible, but then if you're having non-organic eggs, you are adding to your toxic load. It's just a given. You're adding to an antibiotic use. You may not be using antibiotics, but you're ingesting an egg that has used antibiotics and has been exposed to herbicides and things like that. So the key thing is to reduce your toxic load and make a decision on the eggs that you're going to buy, and also how you want your chickens to be treated in a way too. You want them to be free roaming essentially. So there you have it. I hope that this shed some light to your question. Anyone listening who may have a similar question, whoever thought, is it worth buying organic eggs? If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at mahela.ragoos on Instagram, and I'll be able to be in touch with you and hopefully answer your question on the Natural Health Podcast. If you want to join a success and health-oriented community, make sure you join the Natural Health newsletter by clicking the link below. And remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health. Content and information provided here is opinion of Mahela Ragoos and is for information purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. It is not intended to provide medical advice or take the place of medical advice or any current treatment you're undertaking. Consult your own medical professionals for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the Natural Health Podcast. It is advised that you consult your doctor or healthcare professional in relation to any health concerns you may be having. Mahela Ragoos does not take responsibility for any health consequences which occur from a person listening, viewing, or reading this content. And in the circumstances shall the Natural Podcast, Mahela Ragoos, any guests or contributors to the Natural Podcast, or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Mahela Ragoos be responsible for damages arising from the information provided on the Natural Podcast. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical conditions in either yourself or others. Please note, if you're taking prescription, do not stop your medication or start a new protocol, including but not limited to supplements, diet, lifestyle changes without consulting your doctor or healthcare professional. If you or any person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical advice. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have read or heard on the Natural Podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. Neither Mahela Ragoos nor the publisher of this content takes responsibility for the possible health consequences of any person or persons reading or listening or following the information in the educational content.